A struggling waitress fed a poor blind beggar every day until he said, "I'm a billionaire." The rain fell in sheets that November morning, soaking the cracked sidewalk outside Rosie's diner. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of burnt coffee and yesterday's grease. At table 4, Emily wiped down the counter, her fingers aching from the double shifts she'd pulled all week. 24, exhausted, and barely scraping by, she didn't let the weariness show. She had mastered the art of the tired smile. Every day around 10 a.m., she'd see him, an old man sitting quietly on the curb outside, his back hunched against the chill, a cane across his lap. His eyes were clouded, pupils unmoving. Blind. Always dressed in the same fraying brown coat, he sat there with a faded tin cup and a cardboard sign that read, "Just hungry. Anything helps." Most passers-by walked right by him. Some avoided looking at all. But Emily couldn't. Not after what she'd been through. Her mom used to say, when you've known hunger, you recognize it in others, even when it's quiet. Her own father had gone blind before dying of complications from diabetes when she was just 16. She remembered watching him feel along the walls at night, pride crushed by helplessness, but still reaching to comfort her. That memory was why she always noticed the old man. That morning, she grabbed a plate of scrambled eggs, toast, and the few extra bacon strips left by a regular who walked out in a hurry. She wrapped it in foil, poured a small coffee with 2 sugars, and quietly slipped out the side door. "Morning," she said gently, crouching beside him. He turned his head slightly. "Is that you, Miss Emily?" She smiled. "It is. Brought you some breakfast." He reached out, his hands trembling. She placed the warm bundle into them, and he gave a slow nod. "You're too kind to an old ghost like me," he muttered. "You're not a ghost," she whispered. "You're a person. And people deserve to eat." It became routine. Day after day, Emily saved scraps, paid out of her own dwindling tips, and brought the blind man meals. Sometimes it was a sandwich, sometimes leftover pancakes, always accompanied by a warm word. He never asked for more. Never told her his name. One snowy afternoon, her manager, Rick, caught her handing the old man soup behind the dumpster. "You know we can't afford handouts, Emily," he barked. "I paid for it," she said firmly. He scoffed. "Still. Feeding bums won't change the world." She just looked at him and said, "It might change his." That night, she cried in the break room. Not because of Rick's words, but because she was 3 months behind on rent, her shoes had holes, and she hadn't eaten a full meal in 2 days. But still, every morning, she brought food. Then, one day, the old man was gone. She looked up and down the street for hours. Checked the shelters. The hospitals. Nothing. For 2 weeks, she waited outside with warm sandwiches that grew cold in her hands. Eventually, she accepted what she feared most, maybe he'd passed, alone and nameless. Life went on. Struggles mounted. One night, her car was towed, and she barely made it to work in tears. Her spirit was cracking, though she kept showing up, pouring coffee and smiling like the world hadn't beaten her down. A month passed. Then, everything changed. It was a Thursday. A black SUV pulled up outside Rosie's, gleaming in the sun. Out stepped a sharply dressed man in his 50s, flanked by assistants. He walked in with confidence and money dripping off every inch of his tailored suit. "Is there an Emily here?" he asked. She raised a hesitant hand, suddenly self-conscious in her stained apron. "I'm Emily." He walked to her with a warm smile. "I thought it might be you." She looked closer and gasped. His hair was neatly trimmed now, face clean-shaven, eyes still a pale blue, but clear. "Seeing." "Why, you can see." "I can," he said. "Had the surgery. Took a while, but I regained my sight." "But how?" "I didn't lie, he said gently. I was a blind beggar. But before that, I was Harold Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Tech. A fall left me blind and in a coma. When I woke, I had no memory of who I was. My family thought I'd died overseas. I was lost, broken, until your kindness gave me reason to hope again. She stared, speechless. I remembered everything 3 weeks ago, he continued. My assistant found me. Doctors performed the operation. And the moment I could see again, I told them I needed to find you. Emily's lips quivered. Why? Because you fed me when I had nothing. Treated me like a man when I felt invisible. You saved me, Emily. And now, I want to return the gift. He handed her an envelope. She opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a check, with 6 zeros. Her knees buckled. This can't be real. He held her hand. It is. And there's more. He nodded to his assistant, who handed over a set of keys. There's a small house on Elm Street. Yours, if you want it. And a job at our foundation, helping people like you helped me. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I don't know what to say. He smiled. Say yes. And promise me one thing, never stop being the person who saw a man when the world only saw a beggar. She nodded through tears, and they embraced as the diner staff looked on, stunned and moved. Outside, the snow began to fall again, but this time it didn't feel so cold. Because kindness, when freely given, always finds its way back, often in the most unexpected and beautiful ways.